What's up everyone, it's Push here. Today we're going to discuss why Don Krieg Solos Jjk. We don't have time for intros, so let's get into the scaling. So for AP, we see that Don Krieg is able to fight Luffy, who should be above island level at this point, due to the fact that he can destroy islands with one punch. But if you also didn't know, Mihawk actually ran away from Don Krieg, and legend says that Mihawk is still running from Don Krieg to this day. With that information, you can scale Don Krieg above Garp's Galaxy Impact, which is Galaxy level. Oh bro, it's literally stated in the name. In the anime, it shows a galaxy, so yeah, this is obviously Galaxy level. As for higher ends, we have Whitebeard's statement of being able to destroy the world, but in this context, world actually means universe. This is due to the fact that Earth and One Piece is actually larger than the observable universe, which means Whitebeard is capable of destroying a universe, and Mihawk would stand above Whitebeard. And as we all know, in a one-on-one fight, always bet on Don Krieg. But if we go back to the Luffy fight from earlier, Luffy is actually able to beat Kaido, which is impressive because Kaido is stated to be the strongest creature. Now, I don't know about you, but last time I checked, Saiyans from Dragon Ball are creatures. And Saiyans are canon to One Piece because One Piece and Dragon Ball have collabed multiple times. Which means Kaido should upscale Goku, which will make him outer-versal. And Don Krieg is capable of low-diffing Kaido. That's about it for Don Krieg scaling, but trust me, I could have went further. This is a supreme low ball for the GOAT. Now let's move on to speed. So for speed, Don Krieg is again able to fight Luffy, which will put him at infinite speed. This is simply because Luffy is confirmed to be able to stretch infinitely in a Weaver card, which means he has infinite speed. But for higher ends, we can look to Zoro because Don Krieg definitely scales above Zoro. This is important because Zoro is able to travel to the Tournament of Power, which if you didn't know, is an infinite hierarchy dimensions away from Universe 7. And it's infinite times infinite space in size, which would give Zoro inaccessible speed, and Don Krieg upscales this. Alright, so we don't really need to cover anything else except his hacks. See, Don Krieg has what is known as Golden Haki. Golden Haki is an ability that allows Don Krieg to beat any version of Goku with one punch. And this is consistent because after Don Krieg unlocks his Golden Haki, he states that he can pulverize anything and that he's the strongest there is. And this applies to Goku because as we established earlier, Dragon Ball is canon to One Piece. Anyway, let's move on to the JJK scaling, shall we? So as for AP, JJK should be like maybe a wall level. This is because Sukuna might be able to destroy a wall if he put all of his effort into it. And this is consistent because Gojo was able to put a dent in a wall. So yeah, overall wall level for the top tiers of JJK. And the rest of the verse will just downscale from that. As for speed, I know that a lot of people like to put JJK on Mach 3. But I personally believe it's much slower than that. See, Yuji actually got blitzed by a finger bearer in chapter 67 of Jujutsu Kaisen. This is important because Yuji is the strongest sorcerer in history, as he stated, to surpass Gojo and Sukuna, which means that everyone in the verse would also get blitzed by a finger bearer. Now, if I were to make an estimate, I think a finger bearer can maybe move like 6 or 7 miles per hour. Which is way slower than Mach 3. And to address something that happens in Majin is actually a statement that Dabura dances at sublight speed. This is actually a mistranslation. The original page actually says that Dabura only reaches 2 kilometers per hour. So yeah, overall JJK is way below Mach 3. Their durability would just go to their AP and we don't really need to talk about endurance or hacks. Anyway, let's just move on to the matchup. So almost immediately, majority of the JJK verse are just gonna explode and die from being in Don Krieg's presence. And this is due to his side effect of his Golden Haki, which can make anyone in a 20-mile radius whose name isn't Don Krieg explode and die. Though people with the reverse curse technique can survive this. So automatically the match just becomes Yuji, Gojo, Dabura, Sukuna, and Yuta versus Don Krieg. And yeah, unfortunately this is just a wash. Don Krieg at a low ball should be outer versal as he's capable of beating Goku. And nobody in JJK can beat Goku, like, let's be serious. You could argue that they could just use domain expansion, but honestly, Don Krieg might just tank them. Don Krieg should be immune to slashing attacks, because he skills with Kaido, who is immune to slashing attacks. And Don Krieg has unbreakable armor, so slashes won't do anything to him. Dabura's domain is unknown, so we can't really say what it would do, and Yuta is a bum, so we can largely consider him a non-factor. Get him past Akari first. And Gojo's domain won't do anything. Why? Well, it was actually revealed in SBS that Don Krieg is immune to Gojo's Unlimited Void. To quote it directly, a reader asked Oda, "Oda-sensei, do you allow your wife to wear underwear in the house?" Gojo responded with, "Of course not. Are you trying to ruin my dreams?" Also, Don Krieg is immune to Unlimited Void. This is a real SPS, by the way, like, you can go look this up, it's real. Anyway, to conclude this section, Don Krieg solos all 5 of these guys no diff due to simply having higher scaling and better axe abilities. These guys are all below Mach 3 and wall level, so how do you expect them to beat someone who's out of Verso on a low ball? The answer is, they can't. And that's why Don Krieg solos JJK. But what do you think, though? Actually, don't tell me what you think. I don't care. I hope you have a terrible day and that you wake up in the basement of some guy named Felix.